Shalom, everybody. So today we are going to end the class on the conquest of the city of David. And hopefully we are going to solve the mystery of it. As I mentioned, it's my favorite site because it's so rich in so many things and talking about our Messiah that I hope you will enjoy it. So let me share first of all what we did a little bit. We're going to go together a little bit to this class, okay? A little bit what we, if you don't see, well, let me know. So the city of David, okay? So we want to know how they conquered this city that was highly fortified with deep valleys on both sides, and that was the tower protecting the spring. The spring, if you remember, the spring is related to the Gan Eden because it's talking about the Gihon, and until today it bears the same name. So we have the two stories of the conquest, one in 2 Samuel and one in 1 Chronicle. And we saw that there were, I'm not going to read all the verses, but we saw that there were some discrepancies, because they said that the common elements were the refusal on the part of the Jebusite, Yevusi is Jebusite, the inhabitants of the city, to let David enter. By the way, the Jebusite, according to Rashi, were descendant of the Philistines, and they were also part of this deal that was made in Beersheba when Abraham made a deal with Avimelech to prevent the first and his generation, his children, his grandchildren to be attacked by Abraham. So apparently the Jebusites, they were the last descendants of the Philistines. And now the third generation has passed. So it was time for David to conquer the city. David representing the Messiah, of course. So then we have the conquest of the fortress of Zion and its transformation into the city of David. It became the city of David. The promise of a prize to the one who will strike the Jebusite. Then the new rebuilding, reconstruction of the city, and some differences. In Shmuel, we have the king and his men, while in the Chronicles, we have David and all Israel, which is really in the book of Chronicles that have been written after the coming back of Babylon. It was one of the last books that was written. The messianic vision is about unity, okay? Everything is about unity. Sorry. Then we have the aqueduct, the blind, and the lame are mentioned only in the book of Shmuel, not in the book of Divrei Hayamim. And then we have Joab's role in the conquest of the city. And it's mentioned only in the book of Chronicles, okay? So let me just do something here. So there were also other things that I still want to share with you. It was about that one. We talked about the blind and the lame. David and his men, David and all Israel, they encounter a mysterious element in the conquest of Jebusite, because the Jebusite, they put some blind men and lame men, or figures of it, we don't know exactly, and they say the blind and the lame shall not enter the house, okay? Because I mean, they were putting the lame and the blind, and David said, the blind and the lame shall not enter the house. So we were asking, who were those lame and blind? That's a very strange thing. And there were different interpretations. There are idols. They were put as figures on the top of the fortress to prevent David to come, because to remind him about the covenant with Avimelech, related to the patriarch. The lame would be Jacob, that he was limping, and the blind will be Yitzhak, who ended with not seeing very well, okay? So then let's go back to the translation of the Targum, and it says, and the king, so Samuel, of course, it doesn't appear in Chronicles, for the blind and the lame shall cast thee off, which means David shall not come in here. And it says in the Targum, the sinners and the guilty. So the blind and the lame are the sinners and the guilty. Then it says, let them come to the channel, Bat Sinor, and they shall smite the lame and the blind, which are the enemies of David. And it says in the Targum, to subdue the stronghold, the sinners and guilty whom David's soul has rejected. Therefore it says, the sinners and the guilty shall not enter the temple. Here it's the house. Habayit is the temple in the Jewish thought also. So that's very interesting. And then we have this channel, so this channel, the Tzinor, many interpretation. So it was like a channel, or it will be a dagger, or there will be a fork, three tooth, how do you call it, fork or whatever. We don't know exactly, okay? And then the city of David, the Zohar tells us that the Zohar concerning Zion, it tells us, we have learned that when the Holy One, blessed be, wanted to create the lower world, he made it similar to the upper world. He made Jerusalem the center of the whole earth, and a place above it called Zion, which secret is Yesod. Yesod is foundation, is the last sphira of the sixth middle one called the sun, or Zeir Anpin, before entering Malchut, which is the earthly Jerusalem, while the heavenly Jerusalem is in Bina aspect, is upper level. So from Zion, the perfection of beauty, meaning that Elohim has manifested himself from Zion, which is the ultimate beauty of the world. Come and see, typical of the Zohar, see, understand by revelation, that Jerusalem, which is Malchut, was blessed only from Zion, which is Yesod, and that Zion was blessed from above, meaning from the sun, from Zeir Anpin. All is one, the one is connected to the other. For Zeir Anpin and Malchut, so the bride and the groom, the secret of the one over the other are united by Zion. So we understand that something, and immediately after the establishment of David's kingdom, then there is a military victory over the Philistine to represent really the lowliness, the enemy. And then they bring the Ark of the Covenant, which will trigger the Philistine that will went up to look for him. And when David heard of it, he went down to the fortress. So then they were looking for this channel, the Tzinor, and Captain Charles Warren found it. He found a channel that he thought that it would be the place, the channel that they used, Joab used in order to enter the city. Okay, that one. So they came, and then here, that was the Gihon Spring. And here they found this vertical shaft, which in fact, it appeared that it was not the place, because this here, I cannot show you here, but when you visit it, you see that there is a difference bit in the rock, and there is hard limestone and soft limestone, and there's a difference of 1,000 years between the two layers. So it means that at the time of the Canaanites, they could not have dug here because it was hard limestone. They only dug here. So it means it was not revealed, and it was 1,000 years later when they used iron. They started to dig and dig further down. We don't know exactly why. And they came across this natural shaft, karstic formation in the rock. So it was not possible that people will draw the water from here, because you see, as you see, it's very narrow. It's 17 meters high. And if you lower down a bucket, empty bucket, all the way to the source, it's okay. But if you pull back this bucket full of water, it's going to break due to the narrowness of the shaft. So it was not there. And later, indeed, they found the source of the spring, and it's a huge pool from which they were drawing their water. So it was not from this shaft that the Tzinor, we didn't solve the mystery. So in summary, we have several elements. The refusal of the part of the Jebusite to let David enter, sitting, quoting Mr. lame and blind people. The conquest of the fortress of Zion, we call it, the promise of a priest who will strike the Jebusite, then the new construction, the immediate attack of the Philistines after the establishment of the Davidic lineage, the raising of the Ark of the Covenant after the victory, the fact that we have not yet solved the mystery of the Tzinor, and then the narrative of the book of Chronicles, who is a really messianic, more perfection vision with there is no sin, nothing, ignores the lame and the blind. And then another event happens, is the Assyrian siege. All this is part of a big puzzle, okay? We're going to solve it. The Assyrian siege and the tunnel of King Hezekiah. Assyrians are coming and they have already deported the 10 tribes, which is very important, detail very important, because it say the children of Israel sinned against the Lord their God. So they come here now to attack Jerusalem, which is the tribe of Judah. And then they want to seize Jerusalem, but there is a plague that hit the Assyrians, and they go back home without even entering and touching the city of David. But meanwhile, King Hezekiah did two things. He fortified the city, and he did a big broad wall that you can see today in Jerusalem, and the water. He blocked the source of the spring of the Gihon, and he diverted here. He diverted here inside here, okay? Now, normally from the Canaanite, it was going there. See, this is the shaft. So here was flowing to the Canaanite channel and watering the valley. He blocked the Gihon spring and dug another tunnel, which goes all the way with many meanders like this, going to this enclosed pool that he fortified. And then he built the wall all the way to the western hill, which we found it, 8 meter height. And if you can see here, there are some remnants of houses under. So surprisingly, the preparation are reproached to him by the prophet of his time, Isaiah. You have hauled back the waters of the lower pool. You have numbered the house of Jerusalem, and you have broken down the houses. And then, but you don't look to him who intended these things, nor you do see him who prepared them from afar. So all this add to the mystery of the conquest of the city of David. And then we have the last point, is that we have Rabshakeh coming with the Assyrian to lay siege to Jerusalem, and he speaks in Hebrew, Judaic language. And he quotes a messianic prophecy. Every man of you, if you surrender to the Assyrian, you shall eat of his vine and of his fig tree. Every man shall drink the water of his cistern, until I come and take you to a land like yours, a land of grain and wine, hand of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees for oil and honey. So he's alluding to different things in his speech, and he speaks Hebrew. So who is this? Who is this guy? And he encouraged them to abandon the king of Assyria in order to be sitting under this vine and fig tree. Totally messianic prophecy. Okay? So here we are. So that's what so this refers also to about 2 prophecies about the promised land. First, in Micha, it says, they shall dwell every man under his own vine and under his own fig tree, messianic time. And Deuteronomy, I will bring you to a good land, a land of rivers, springs, lakes, which spring up in the valleys and the mountains, a land of wheat, barley, vineyards, and so on and so forth. So if we summarize, we have several gray zone, several obscure points. Sorry, the blind and the lame, the Tzinor, Rabshakeh that speaks Hebrew and quoting scripture, Rabshakeh, sorry, alluding to messianic prophecy, the prophet's reproach to Ezekias. And finally, we have another point that's bringing us to Yeshua, is Yeshua is going to perform 2 miracles in Jerusalem, not 1, not 3, not 4, 2. That of the paralytic man, the lame man, near the fuller's field, and that of the blind man at the pool of Shiloah. And Shiloah is our pool. We're talking about our pool from the city of David. So now we're going to start. So he performs 2 miracles in Jerusalem, at the pool of Bethesda. Bethesda means the house of mercy. And that of the blind man at the pool of Shiloah. And Shiloah is Siloah, maybe you call it in English in the English Bible. It says the Saint One, is the Saint One. Both miracles are performed near a spring of water. Why? Because water represents mercy, grace in the Torah. Okay. The identification of the pool of Shiloah is very clear. It's that it is the one from the city of David. Okay. Concerning the pool of Bethesda, according to many, it will be mentioned or rebuilt in the book of Kings with the Assyrian siege. We read in 2 Kings 18. The king of Assyria sent from Lachish to Jerusalem to King Ezekiah, Tartan, Rabsaris, and Rabshakeh with a powerful army. They went up and came to Jerusalem. When they had gone and arrived, they stopped at the aqueduct of the upper pond on the way to the fuller's field. Okay, so 1 pound down below, another one upper. And interestingly, Bethesda was located near the sheep gate, which is pronounced in Hebrew keves. In Hebrew, keves, okay? Sheep is keves. Now, the fuller is pronounced also koves, like visa is like the laundry. It's not spelled exactly, but maybe the translation rolled on or evoluted, and it was the place where the sheep were washed, koves, and after the sacrifices. So it's not far from the lion's gate. So it's the fuller's field. It's in fact the place where the sheep were washed. So, and then another point is that the healing of the blind and the lame is also a well-known messianic hope based on various prophecies mentioned in the book of Isaiah. So let me share also with you those verses here. Here we are. So this is what you will get here. Okay. Then shall the eyes of the blind be opened and the ears of the deaf be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap like a deer and the tongue of the dumb shall break forth for joy. And then I will cause the blind to walk in a way that they don't know, and I will let them in path they do not know. I will turn darkness into light before them. Behold, I will bring from the north country and gather them from the ends of the earth. Among them shall be the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and so on. And then in Luke it says, go and tell Yochanan that you have, Yochanan, this is a mistake, Yochanan, that you have seen and heard. What have you seen? The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor as good news brought to them. And in Matthew, then a great crowd came to him with the lame, the blind, the mute, the crippled, and many others who were sick. They laid them at his feet and he healed them, so that the crowd marveled when they saw that the mute spoke, the crippled were healed, the lame walked, and the blind saw, and they glorified the God of Israel. So, of course, it seems evident that we are talking about prophetic thing here. Okay, this is evident. We're talking about the prophecy of the Messiah. So now, the washing in the pool of Shiloah is also an allusion to the festival of Sukkot. It was from the pool in Shiloah, the Saint One, that the Kohanim came to draw the water for the libation of the water on the altar of the temple to pray for rain. They would go all the way down from the pool of David, I mean the city of David, Shiloah, all the way up to the temple. And we can do this today. Zohar in Noah say that during the festival of Sukkot, Israel pleases the Holy One, blessed with the water that they pour on the altar during the sacrifices of bulls that provide blessings to the ministers of the 70 nations. When these ministers draw their share of blessings, they do not interfere with the joy of Israel when they receive their own supreme blessings. On that day, it is written in Song of Songs, "My beloved is mine and I'm his. He feeds his flock among the lilies." This verse reverses Israel's close and special relation with Hashem. So Sukkot is going to be the celebration, the messianic celebration with the Messiah and the closeness to God. Now, what does it mean to be a blind or lame in the Bible? So being lame means not walking straight, obviously, in the Torah. In Hebrew 12:13, it says, "Walk with your feet in straight path so that the lame may not be turned aside, but rather become strong." Okay, so when you're leaping means that you don't go straight according to Torah. The halacha is to walk. The Torah opens the eyes. To be blind is meant to be spiritually blinded because of the transgression of the Torah. Like it says in Psalm 119, "Open my eyes that I may behold the wonders of thy Torah." If you don't open my eyes because I don't see the Torah, I'm transgressing. To see is also see spiritually. As I mentioned, the Zohar always begins with these words, "Come and see." So it means to have a divine revelation. And it says in Isaiah 42, "I will make the blind walk by a way they do not know. I will lead them by path they do not know. I will turn darkness into light before them and crooked plain into plain. This is I will do, I will not forsake them." And in Revelation, it says, "Because you say I'm rich and increase with goods and have nothing, I know nothing that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked." We don't have any more ornaments of the Torah. "I counsel you to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that you may be rich, white raiment that you may be clothed, and the shame of your nakedness may not appear. And I salve to anoint your eyes that you may see." So we understand that it's about walking in the Torah. So let's go back to the Targum of the translation of the Targum that says one more time that the blind and the lame are the sinners and the guilty, and that by this sinor he shall smite the sinner and the guilty that David's souls has rejected because they don't like Torah and they cannot enter into the temple. Okay, so we're getting closer and closer. So what's the bottom line now? We are in the context of the post-exile of the northern tribes. Israel have been amputed of, okay? The tribes have disappeared, no trace or almost no trace of them. King Hezekiah, who was among the righteous king of Judah, is rebuked by Isaiah the prophet because he opposed the divine plan. He tells him, "You hold back the waters of the lower pool. You have numbered the houses of Jerusalem, and you have broken them down to strengthen your wall. You do not see the one who prepared all those things from afar." So what is he talking about? What divine plan? What houses is he talking about? Why did Rabshakeh speak in Hebrew? Why is the reproach to Hezekiah concerning the sealing of the spring of the Gihon? Who are the blind and the lame? Why did Yeshua come to perform the only 2 miracles in Jerusalem, at Bethesda with the lame and at Shiloah with the blind? Why doesn't the book of Chronicles mention the bringing up of the kingdom of David? So here are some elements of answer, because we can just say that, "Oh, depth of the richness, the wisdom, and the knowledge of God." King David is the seed from which the Messiah is to come and he must conquer Jerusalem, which is Malchut of this world. Sin cannot take place in this Malchut. The 10 tribes, Ephraim, were exiled by the Assyrians because of the multiple and repeated transgression of the Torah by the kings of the northern kingdom, following their split with the house of Judah. It was an event so painful that the prophecies cry out for the restoration of the Sukkot David, okay, the restoration of the kingdom. And the book of Chronicles, having been written after the return from Babylon, when all tribes were scattered, but Judah came back, is a message of hope after the destruction of the temple and the return from exile. Neither David's sin with Bathsheba nor the split with Israel are mentioned. The messianic vision is perfect. No room either for sinners and offenders, because we don't see any blind story or a lame story in the book of Chronicles, because everything is about the Torah and the unity that is going to come back. But there is a wound, okay? Israel is cut off from his brothers Ephraim. It has been about 180 years since the tribes were exiled. A few refugees have come under the wings of Judah, even a bit more. We'll study this later. And to Judah was the older brother and the heir to the covenant. So they came back, they flew from the Assyrian, they was not captured, they were not exiled. They came to Jerusalem to come back to the place of the temple, to return to the house, to the temple, to the divine presence. But Hezekiah, being scared and didn't understand, with not understanding of the divine plan, is going to destroy their houses. And because he needed stones, how would you quickly make a huge stone that was 9 meters wide, 8 meter height with the stone? You didn't have time to quarry. So he numbered the house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. Okay, destroy this house, take the stone. 1, 2, 3, 9. He numbered the house, he broke them down, and we can see that the wall is resting on some houses. So those refugees were casted out, or they were symbolically. Okay, then he's going to block the spring, the source of the Gihon that comes from above, and that has to give us a certain revelation, and from the Gan Eden, and it is going to block the source of revelation, meaning that Judah will prevent Ephraim in the story of from settling in Jerusalem, from drinking to the source of the revelation of the Messiah, who will bring back the 10 tribes and rebuild the Sukkot David. They casted out Yeshua. They blocked the source of revelation, and the Shekhinah, the presence of God represented by the Messiah, had to go into the nations in order to get back his children, Ephraim. So the Shekhinah was exiled with the children. Judah, with their before kind of punished with the destruction of the cities of Judah and the destruction of the temple, and will be sent 70 years in exile, 70 like the 70 nations. And Isaiah 8:6, because these people has despised the waters of Shiloah, the source of revelation, the sent one, that flowed gently, and has rejoiced over Retzin and the son of Remaliah, behold, the Lord will bring up against them the mighty and great waters of the river, the king of Assyria, and all his glory, and it shall rise everywhere over his bed and spread over his banks, and it shall enter into Judah and overflow and flood and reach to the neck, the spreading of its wings that fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. Emmanuel, meaning the Messiah, the sent one of the pool of Shiloah. Afterwards, the Babylonians will come and they will destroy the temple and the city of David, which will remain buried until our generation. When Nehemiah is coming back from the exile, he rebuilds the city after the return of Babylon, but he could not go to exceed the lower part, which nor free the spring. The spring was still not freed. And it was in our generation that we could dig and uncover the spring of Gihon. But then Yeshua will come and he will reveal the source. He will come and free the lame, the paralytic at the pool of Bethesda, mercy. He will free the paralytic who could not walk, waiting and trusting in the God Asclepius, the Greek God, to receive his healing. He had been sick for 30 years, 38 years, which is chol in Hebrew. He was sick, chol. He was empty. Chol is also an empty void. He was void of the presence of God. He will then open the eyes of the blind men of Judah to his revelation, Messiah of the Davidic lineage. It is in him that the divine plan is realized with the release of the captives and the restoration of the 12 tribes. What David represented, the earthly malchut, he could not do by conquering the blind and the lame. The Messiah ben David, representing the malchut from above, the bina, is going to do it. So the revelation is going to take place prophetically at the source of the Gihon, Shiloach, near the temple, the coronation place of all the kings of Judah, and the coronation place of the King of Judah, Messiah. The antenna of the blessing from on high, which are poured out on the whole world, okay? And even in the Midrash, it says that King Shlomo had his gardens and that they were sown with all kinds of spices, precious wood, because Shlomo had the knowledge of the canals, the veins that were coming down from heaven and spreading all the way. For instance, cinnamon will come from heaven, and then the vein of cinnamon will go from Jerusalem all the way to Madagascar. And he knew all the veins, and all the veins of the blessing, he planted the spices. So all the blessings are coming from Jerusalem, from this place, to the whole world. And it was also at Sukkot, at the drawing of the water, that Yeshua cried out in John 7:37, on the last day, the great day of the feast, Yeshua stood and cried out, if any man thirst, let him come to me and drink. He that believe in me, rivers of living water shall flow out of his bosom, and as the scripture said. And Yeshua said to him, if you knew the gift of God, he said to the Samaritan, who it is that say to you, give me to drink, you would yourself ask him for a drink, and he would have given you the living water. And this echoes the prophecy of Isaiah, you shall draw water with joy from the springs of salvation, the spring of Ha-Yeshua. So let me show you where, it's like this. It's here, okay, the city of David, with all the channels that were watering the valleys and the spaces that King Solomon knew, the different vein. And it's not done. Here you see, you have this schema one more time of the channel that was dug by let me just close the window just 1 second. Okay, I'm coming back. Okay, sorry about that. Here you have this map, and this is called the meanders, 2,000 years of wanderings. What does it mean? Ezekiah, by building the channel, will strangely lengthen the course by making it take detours to avoid the tombs of the king of Judah, as it says. You see here, you see maybe they could have had all the tombs of the king of Judah. So maybe that was the reason. And also it represents the meanders of history where Ephraim will have to wander for 2,000 years into the doctrine of wrong doctrine, and also because Esau came and diverted the source, but also because Judah prevented his brother to understand, because they themselves didn't want the Messiah. Rav Shakeh, who was obviously an Ephraimite, this is why he was speaking Hebrew, and he was knowing the prophecies. So he was representing this Ephraim, leaving Judah, going to the nations. And he was crying out in Hebrew language. He wanted to provoke his brother Judah. He will choose the Assyrian camp for a time with these idolatries, which is 2,000 years of meanders. But his cry will never come out of his womb, because he will speak in Hebrew. So the Hebrew means he's calling back to his brother. He will show the direction by quoting the messianic prophecy in Micah, and they shall dwell every man under his own vine and under his own fig tree. And there shall be no trouble for them, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. In that day, in Zechariah, said the Lord of hosts, you shall invite one another under the vine and under the fig tree. So now we have deciphered some of the mysteries. But there's the last one. The last one is the Tzinor. What is this Tzinor? How was the city of David conquered? Metamorphorically, okay? Because it was conquered through the Tzinor. Ba Tzinor. And what is this Tzinor? A tower, a dagger, a water system? What is the mystery? This is why the cherry on the cake, the wonder of the wonders, the numerical value of the word Bat Tzinor through the Tzinor is the same as Messiah, Mashiach, 358. All is said. So David had said on that day, whoever defeats the Jebusite and reaches the channel, reaches the Messiah, who is going to remove all the stains, all the transgression of the Torah, is going to bring back the 12 tribes together to the holy city of Jerusalem, Malchut physically, which is the seat of the blessing from above, from the Jerusalem from above. Whoever strikes those lame and blind, who are the enemies of David, therefore it is said, the blind and the lame shall not enter the temple. What Yeshua hid from his brother, the betrayers of Ephraim, triggering his exile, Hashem, as it says in Romans 11, shut up all men in disobedience to have mercy on all, by showing the same way for all, Yeshua, hope and glory of Israel. So the Jerusalem height is delivered to us pure and undefiled. And this is going to be the story and the purpose of the Jerusalem, where everything began, is the city of David. It's a gem that contains all the treasures of the Torah and the revelation of the Messiah. And when the blind opened his eyes, he understood that this is the source that has been hidden from him. And Rav Shake was crying out, like today Ephraim is crying out to come back home. And soon is going to be the reunification, and Judah will recognize the one that they pierced, and Ephraim will come back home. So that was my little contribution for the city of David that I like very much, and I hope you enjoy it also. Thank you for listening.